Picture this. You're standing in your childhood bedroom, holding a box of memories, old love letters, concert tickets from years ago, photos of people who are no longer in your life. Your hands are shaking, not from the weight of the box, but from the weight of what it represents. Every item tells a story of who you used to be, who you thought you'd become, and dreams that didn't unfold the way you planned. This moment, this exact feeling, is where transformation begins. Not in the grand gestures or life-changing events we see on social media, but in the quiet moments when we're forced to confront what we've been carrying. And here's what I've learned after years of studying human behavior, after interviewing hundreds of people who've transformed their lives, after my own journey through the valleys of holding on and the peaks of letting go. The art of letting go isn't about losing something. It's about making space for everything you're meant to become. Today, right now, as you're listening to this, I want you to know something. You don't have to carry everything. You weren't designed to hold on to every hurt, every disappointment, every version of yourself that no longer serves you. And the person you're becoming, the life you're creating, is waiting for you to open your hands and trust the process of release. But here's the challenge we all face. We live in a world that teaches us to accumulate possessions, experiences, achievements, even emotions. We're told that letting go means giving up, that releasing means failing, that moving on means we didn't care enough. Social media feeds us a constant stream of people who seem to have it all figured out, who appear to effortlessly transition from one success to another, making us feel like we're the only ones struggling with the weight of our past. I want to share something with you that changed everything for me. 3 years ago, I was having coffee with an elderly woman named Margaret. She was 82, had lived through wars, raised 5 children, buried her husband of 60 years, and yet her eyes sparkled with a lightness that seemed impossible given all she'd experienced. I asked her the question that had been haunting me. How do you carry so much loss and still seem so free? She leaned forward, her weathered hands wrapped around her coffee cup, and said something I'll never forget. "Child, I learned that my hands are too small to hold yesterday and tomorrow at the same time. So I chose to hold today and let everything else flow through me like water." That conversation planted a seed that will grow into everything I'm sharing with you now. Because letting go isn't a single act, it's a way of living. It's not about becoming numb or indifferent. It's about becoming so present, so alive to this moment, that you naturally release what doesn't belong here. Let me tell you what letting go really means. Letting go means looking at the story you've been telling yourself about who you are and asking, is this story serving my growth or stunting it? It means recognizing that the identity you've built around your struggles, your past relationships, your failures, or even your successes might be the very thing keeping you from evolving into who you're meant to be. Think about Thomas Edison for a moment. He didn't just fail 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. He actively let go of each failed attempt. He didn't carry the disappointment of experiment 999 into experiment 1000. Each failure was information, not identity. Each setback was a stepping stone, not a stopping point. Edison understood something we often forget. Progress requires release. When we hold on to things, we create what I call emotional constipation. Just like our bodies need to eliminate waste to function properly, our minds and hearts need to release what no longer serves us. But we've been conditioned to believe that holding on shows strength, that remembering every slight shows loyalty to ourselves, that carrying our wounds proves we've survived something significant. Here's the truth that will set you free. Strength isn't measured by what you can carry. It's measured by what you're willing to put down The young person listening to this who's still replaying that conversation where someone doubted your dreams, you're not honoring your potential by carrying their words. You're limiting it. The person who's been defined by a relationship that ended, by a job you lost, by a mistake you made, you're not being faithful to your growth by making that experience your permanent address. You're choosing to live in a house that's too small for who you're becoming. Now, I know what you're thinking, but if I let go, won't I forget? Won't I lose the lessons? Won't I be dishonoring what I've been through? This is where we need to understand the difference between letting go and letting down. Letting down means abandoning the lessons, dismissing the growth, pretending experiences didn't shape us. Letting go means taking the wisdom and leaving the weight. Think of it like this: when you eat an orange, you extract the nutrition and eliminate the waste. You don't carry the peel with you everywhere as proof that you once ate an orange. The value has been absorbed. The unnecessary has been released. This is exactly how we should process our experiences. Now, let me share with you the 3 profound benefits that come when you master the art of letting go. First, reduced stress and anxiety. Your mind is like a computer with limited processing power. Every unresolved emotion, every grudge you're holding, every regret you're nurturing is like having hundreds of tabs open in your browser. Eventually, the system slows down. Eventually, it crashes. I once worked with a young entrepreneur named David. He was brilliant, driven, had incredible ideas, but he was paralyzed by anxiety. During our sessions, we discovered that he was carrying the criticism from his 3rd grade teacher who told him he wasn't smart enough. He was holding on to the rejection from his first business proposal. He was nurturing the resentment toward his parents for not believing in his dreams. His present moment was so crowded with the past that there was no space for creativity, no room for inspiration. The moment David began practicing emotional release, something magical happened. His anxiety decreased. His focus sharpened. His creativity exploded. Why? Because he freed up mental and emotional space for what mattered now. Science backs this up beautifully. Asterisk, asterisk. When we hold on to negative emotions, our bodies produce stress hormones like cortisol continuously. These hormones weren't designed to be constantly present in our system. They were meant for short bursts during actual danger. But when we chronically hold on to anger, resentment, fear, and regret, we're essentially telling our body that we're always in danger, that we're always under threat. Letting go is like telling your nervous system, the emergency is over. We can rest now. We can create now. We can live now. Second, increased self-awareness. Here's something beautiful about the process of letting go. It forces you to get honest about what you've been carrying and why. Most of us go through life on autopilot, reacting to situations based on old programming, old wounds, old fears, without ever questioning whether these reactions serve us. When you commit to letting go, you have to inventory what you're holding. You have to examine your emotional baggage, like going through that box of memories I mentioned earlier. And in that examination, patterns emerge. You start to see that the anger you feel toward your current boss has the same flavor as the anger you felt toward your high school principal. You realize that the fear of taking risks in your business has the same root as the fear you felt as a child when your parents argued about money. This awareness is transformational because you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Asterisk, asterisk. Letting go becomes a mirror that shows you not just what you're carrying, but why you picked it up in the first place. I think about Gandhi, who spent years examining his own attachments, his own ego, his own patterns of reaction. His practice of letting go wasn't just about achieving personal peace. It was about understanding himself so deeply that he could serve others from a place of clarity rather than unconscious reaction. Gandhi understood that self-awareness is the gateway to authentic power. Third, enhanced resilience. This is the benefit that surprises people the most. They think letting go makes you weak, vulnerable, like you're lowering your defense. But the opposite is true. When you practice letting go, you're training for resilience. You're learning that you can experience loss, disappointment, setback, even heartbreak, and still maintain your center. Resilience isn't about avoiding pain. It's about moving through pain without getting stuck in it. It's about letting experiences flow through you rather than pile up inside you. Consider the story of Walt Disney. He was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and original ideas. His first animation company went bankrupt. He was told Mickey Mouse would fail because a giant mouse on screen would terrify women. Each time Disney faced rejection or failure, he practiced what I call productive letting go. He extracted the lesson, released the sting, and moved forward with renewed creativity. Disney's resilience wasn't about having thick skin. It was about having permeable skin, letting experiences flow through him rather than accumulate within him. This is the secret of truly resilient people. They don't avoid storms. They learn to dance in the rain without getting soaked. Now, you might be asking, this all sounds beautiful, but how do I actually do it? How do I let go when everything in me wants to hold on? Let me give you 3 practical, powerful tools that will change your life if you apply them consistently. First, mindful meditation. I know, you've heard about meditation everywhere, but I'm not talking about sitting in lotus position for hours chanting in Sanskrit. I'm talking about 5 minutes a day of consciously practicing release. Here's a simple technique I call the flowing river meditation. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and imagine yourself sitting by a river. Now, visualize your thoughts, emotions, and concerns as leaves floating down the river. Don't try to stop the leaves. Don't judge them. Don't analyze them. Just watch them flow. When a thought about your ex comes up, see it as a leaf. Watch it float by. When anxiety about your future appears, see it as a leaf. Let it flow. When regret about a past decision surfaces, leaf. Let it go. The magic of this practice is that you're training your mind to observe without attaching, to experience without clinging. You're developing what Buddhists call witness consciousness, the ability to be aware of your thoughts and emotions without being controlled by them. I started this practice during the most difficult period of my life. I was going through a painful breakup. My career was uncertain, and I felt like I was drowning in my own emotions. Those 5 minutes by the imaginary river saved my sanity. They taught me that feelings are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. Second, transformational journaling. Writing has the power to move emotions from your internal world to the external world, where you can examine them objectively. But not all journaling is created equal. I want to teach you a specific technique I call the release journal. Every morning, write down 3 things you're ready to let go of. They can be big or small. I'm ready to let go of my resentment towards Sarah for canceling our plans. I'm ready to let go of my fear of public speaking. I'm ready to let go of my need to control how this project unfolds. Then, for each item, write why you're ready to release it and what you hope to gain by letting go. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending problems don't exist. It's about consciously choosing what deserves your mental and emotional energy. Here's what happens when you write these things down. Your brain starts to treat them as completed tasks. The act of writing, "I'm letting go of," sends a signal to your subconscious that this is a decision you've made, not just a wish you have. I once worked with a young woman named Sarah who had been carrying guilt about not visiting her grandmother before she passed away. For 2 years, this guilt colored every family gathering. every holiday, every quiet moment. Through the release journal practice, Sarah wrote, "I'm ready to let go of my guilt about Grandma because carrying it doesn't honor her memory or serve my family. By releasing this guilt, I hope to gain the ability to remember her with love instead of regret." Within weeks, Sarah noticed a shift. The guilt began to dissolve, replaced by gratitude for the time they did share. The weight she'd been carrying transformed into wings that carried her toward more meaningful connections with the family members who were still present. Third, the practice of radical forgiveness. Now, before you skip this section thinking I'm about to tell you to forgive your abuser or excuse someone's harmful behavior, stop. Radical forgiveness isn't about condoning bad behavior or pretending harm didn't occur. It's about freeing yourself from the prison of resentment. Here's what I mean by radical forgiveness. Forgiveness is the gift you give yourself. Asterisk, asterisk. When you hold onto anger, resentment, or the need for revenge, you're essentially drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. You're carrying a burning coal in your hand, hoping to throw it at someone else, but you're the one getting burned. Radical forgiveness has three components. Forgiving others doesn't mean what they did was okay. It means what they did will no longer control your emotional state. It means you're choosing your peace over their punishment. Forgiving yourself is often the hardest part. We are our own worst critics, our harshest judges. We hold ourselves to standards we wouldn't impose on our worst enemies. Self-forgiveness means accepting that you did your best with the awareness, resources, and emotional capacity you had at the time. Forgiving life means releasing the story that life should be different than it is. It means accepting that loss, disappointment, and unexpected changes are part of the human experience, not personal attacks on your happiness. Let me share a story that illustrates the power of this practice. Abraham Lincoln, during one of the most divisive periods in American history, was asked why he spoke so kindly about his enemies. His response was profound. "Do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends?" Lincoln understood that forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was strategic wisdom. But here's where Lincoln's wisdom becomes personal for you. You don't have to make your enemies your friends. You just have to make your peace your priority. You have to love your future more than you hate your past. Now, let me share with you some stories that will inspire you to embrace your own letting go journey. I want to tell you about Maria, a 34-year-old teacher who came to one of my workshops carrying a heavy burden. She had been married for 8 years to a man who slowly eroded her confidence with constant criticism and emotional manipulation. When she finally found the courage to leave, she thought her healing journey was over. But 2 years post-divorce, she was still carrying the relationship with her everywhere. She would hear his voice in her head whenever she tried something new. "You're not smart enough for that." She would feel his presence in every room, second-guessing every decision. Maria wasn't just divorced. She was imprisoned by the memory of the marriage. During our session, I asked Maria a question that changed everything. If you could choose to carry only the wisdom from that relationship and leave everything else behind, what would you take? Her eyes filled with tears, as she realized that buried beneath all the pain were profound lessons. She had learned to trust her intuition. She had discovered strength she didn't know she possessed. She had developed compassion for other women in similar situations. The relationship had been painful, but it had also been a teacher. Maria began practicing what I call selective memory. Instead of replaying the arguments, she focused on the moments when she stood up for herself. Instead of remembering his criticism, she recalled her own moments of clarity. Instead of carrying his voice, she began cultivating her own. 6 months later, Maria sent me a message that made me cry. She had just gotten promoted to principal at her school. She was dating a kind man who celebrated her strength instead of attacking it. Most importantly, she felt free. She told me, I realized I wasn't honoring my growth by carrying my wounds. I was dishonoring my transformation. Then there's Marcus, a 28-year-old entrepreneur who built his entire identity around a startup that failed spectacularly. He lost his investors' money, had to lay off friends he'd hired, and felt like he'd failed everyone who believed in him. For a year and a half, Marcus couldn't even think about starting another business. He was paralyzed by the fear of failing again, haunted by the voices of disappointed investors, crushed by the weight of his own perceived inadequacy. When Marcus came to me, he was working a job he hated, making a fraction of what he used to make, but too afraid to risk again. He said, I don't know how to move forward when I've let so many people down. I shared with him the story of Henry Ford, who failed with his first 2 automobile companies before creating Ford Motor Company. I told him about Steve Jobs being fired from Apple, the company he founded, only to return and lead it to unprecedented success. I reminded him that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the foundation of wisdom. But the real breakthrough came when Marcus started practicing what I call failure reframing. Instead of seeing his startup failure as evidence of his inadequacy, he began to see it as expensive education. He calculated that he had learned lessons about business, leadership, and resilience that would have cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars in business school, and his lessons were based on real-world experience, not textbook theory. Marcus began to let go of the identity of failed entrepreneur and embrace the identity of educated entrepreneur. He stopped carrying the weight of his investors' disappointment and started carrying the wisdom of experience. He released his attachment to being seen as infallible and embraced the freedom of being human. Today, Marcus runs a successful consulting firm, helping other entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes he made. His failure became his greatest asset once he stopped carrying it as a burden and started treating it as a resource. Asterisk. Here's what these stories teach us about embracing change with confidence. The future belongs to those who can adapt, who can flow, who can let go of who they were to become who they're meant to be. But this isn't about constantly reinventing yourself or abandoning your values. It's about releasing the attachments that keep you stuck and embracing the uncertainty that leads to growth. Change is the only constant in life, but most of us treat it like an enemy instead of an ally. We cling to jobs that no longer fulfill us because we're afraid of the unknown. We stay in relationships that have run their course because we're terrified of being alone. We hold on to versions of ourselves that no longer fit because we don't trust who we might become. But here's what I've learned from studying people who thrive in uncertainty, who dance with change instead of resisting it, asterisk. They've developed a relationship with letting go that makes them anti-fragile, asterisk. They don't just survive change, they use change as fuel for growth. Let me share the mindset shifts that will help you embrace your future with confidence. First, reframe uncertainty as possibility, asterisk. When you don't know what's coming next, that's not a problem to be solved. It's a canvas to be painted. When your future is unclear, that's not a source of anxiety, it's a source of potential. Every moment of not knowing is a moment of infinite possibility. Second, trust your ability to figure it out. Asterisk. You've been figuring things out your entire life. You learned to walk, to talk, to read, to navigate relationships, to handle responsibilities. You've adapted to countless changes already. The evidence of your resilience is the life you're living right now. You've never faced a challenge you couldn't eventually handle. Why would that change now? Third, embrace beginner's mind. In Zen Buddhism, there's a concept called Shoshin, or beginner's mind. It means approaching life with openness, eagerness, and freedom from preconceptions. When you let go of needing to be the expert, the one who has it all figured out, you open yourself to learning growing, and discovering new aspects of yourself, I think about how children approach new experiences. They don't worry about failing because they don't have a reputation to protect. They don't hesitate to try new things because they don't have a rigid identity to maintain. They live in a constant state of becoming because they haven't yet decided who they are supposed to be. This is the power of letting go. It returns you to a state of becoming. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures or even your successes. You are not the labels others have placed on you or the limitations you've placed on yourself. You are a dynamic, evolving, endlessly creative being with the power to write new chapters, to explore new territories, to become new versions of yourself. But here's the key. You can't become new while holding on to old. Asterisk, asterisk. You can't embrace your future while clinging to your past. You can't step into who you're meant to be while carrying who you used to be. This is why letting go isn't just a nice idea, it's a survival skill for the modern world. The pace of change is accelerating. The careers that exist today might not exist in 10 years. The skills that made you successful in the past might not serve you in the future. The relationships, habits, and beliefs that got you here might not take you there. The people who will thrive in the coming decades are those who can let go quickly, learn rapidly, and adapt gracefully. But I don't want you to think this is about becoming a leaf in the wind, changing with every breeze. There's a difference between being flexible and being unfocused, between adapting and abandoning your core. The goal isn't to let go of everything, it's to let go of everything that's keeping you from expressing your truest self. Think of it like a sculptor working with marble. The masterpiece isn't created by adding material, it's created by removing everything that isn't essential to the vision. Your life is the same way. Your authentic self, your highest potential, your greatest contribution to the world emerges. Not when you add more, but when you remove what doesn't belong. This is where we need to talk about the continuous nature of letting go. Letting go isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a practice you cultivate. It's not something you do once and check off your list. It's something you do daily, sometimes moment by moment, because life keeps happening. New challenges arise, new attachments form, new fears emerge. The goal isn't to reach a state where you never have to let go again. The goal is to become so skilled at letting go that you can release what doesn't serve you before it takes root. The goal is to develop such a healthy relationship with change that you can flow with life instead of fighting it. Think of letting go as emotional hygiene. Asterisk, asterisk. Just like you brush your teeth daily to prevent decay, you need to release emotional and mental accumulation daily to prevent psychological stagnation. Just like you shower to wash away physical dirt, you need to practice letting go to wash away emotional residue. This daily practice might look like taking 5 minutes each morning to consciously release any anxiety about the day ahead. It might mean spending a few moments each evening forgiving yourself for any mistakes you made that day. It might involve weekly check-ins where you ask yourself, what am I carrying that I don't need to carry? I want to share something personal with you. Every Sunday, I do what I call a letting go inventory. I sit quietly and ask myself 3 questions. What am I holding on to that's keeping me stuck? What fear am I carrying that's preventing me from growing? What story am I telling myself that's limiting my potential? Sometimes the answers surprise me. Last month, I realized I was still carrying resentment toward a colleague who had taken credit for my work 2 years ago. That resentment wasn't hurting him. He had probably forgotten the incident entirely. But it was taking up space in my mind, coloring my interactions with other colleagues, making me defensive in collaborative situations. The moment I recognized what I was carrying, I could choose to put it down. I could choose to free that mental and emotional energy for something more productive. I could choose to learn from the experience without being imprisoned by it. This is the freedom that awaits you on the other side of letting go. Imagine waking up tomorrow feeling light. Imagine moving through your day without the weight of old grievances, outdated fears, or limiting beliefs. Imagine having access to all your mental and emotional energy because you're not using it to carry things that don't serve you. Imagine being able to love fully because you're not protecting yourself from old hurts. Imagine being able to take risks because you're not defined by past failures. Imagine being able to embrace opportunities because you're not limited by old stories about what you can and cannot do. This isn't fantasy. This is possibility. This is what becomes available when you master the art of letting go. But I need to be honest with you about something. The journey of letting go isn't always comfortable. There will be moments when releasing feels like losing, when change feels like chaos, when growth feels like dying. This is normal. This is part of the process. When a snake sheds its skin, the process is uncomfortable. The old skin becomes tight, restricts movement, limits growth. The shedding process itself is vulnerable. The snake is temporarily more exposed, more sensitive, but without this process, the snake cannot grow. Without releasing what no longer fits, it cannot become what it's meant to be. You are in a constant process of becoming, and becoming requires releasing who you used to be to make space for who you're becoming. Sometimes this process will feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it will feel scary. Sometimes it will feel like loss before it feels like freedom. This is why you need to be gentle with yourself during this process. Be patient with your progress. Be compassionate with your struggles. Be understanding of your resistance. Remember, you're not just changing habits or behaviors, you're changing your relationship with change itself. You're learning to see endings as beginnings, to view loss as space for gain, to understand that what feels like dying is often just growing pains. You're developing a new operating system for life, one based on flow instead of rigidity, trust instead of control, growth instead of safety. Now, let me give you some specific opportunities to practice letting go. Look at your relationships. Are there connections that drain your energy without giving anything back? Are there people in your life who consistently make you feel small, criticized, or unsupported? Letting go might mean setting boundaries, having difficult conversations, or in some cases, ending relationships that no longer serve your growth. This doesn't make you cruel or selfish. It makes you responsible for your own well-being and authentic in your connections. When you release relationships that don't honor your growth, you create space for relationships that do. Examine your career. Are you staying in a job that no longer challenges you because it feels safe? Are you avoiding pursuing your passion because you're afraid of failure? Are you clinging to a version of success that was defined by others instead of yourself? Letting go in your career might mean leaving a position that pays well but kills your spirit. It might mean starting over in a field that excites you. It might mean releasing the need to prove yourself to people whose approval doesn't actually matter. Look at your habits and routines. What are you doing daily that doesn't serve your highest self? Are you consuming content that makes you feel worse about yourself? Are you engaging in behaviors that numb you instead of energize you? Are you holding on to habits that were appropriate for who you used to be, but limit who you're becoming? Consider your beliefs and assumptions. What stories are you telling yourself about what's possible for your life? What limitations have you accepted as truth? What fears are you treating as facts? What assumptions about yourself, others, or the world are keeping you playing small? Asterisk. Here's your call to action, your invitation to transformation. I want you to choose one thing, just one thing that you're ready to let go of today. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be real. Maybe it's the grudge you've been holding against your sister for 3 years. Maybe it's the fear of starting that creative project you've been talking about forever. Maybe it's the belief that you're not smart enough, talented enough, or worthy enough to pursue your dreams. Choose one thing. Write it down. And then practice letting it go using the tools I've shared with you. Use the flowing river meditation to watch that attachment float away like a leaf on the water. Use your release journal to consciously choose to put down that burden. Use forgiveness to free yourself from the prison of resentment. But don't stop there. Make letting go a practice. Not just a one-time event. Make it part of your daily routine, your weekly reflection, your monthly goal-setting process. And here's my promise to you, asterisk. As you practice letting go, you'll notice something remarkable happening. You'll start to feel lighter, not because your challenges disappear, but because you're no longer carrying unnecessary weight. You'll start to feel freer, not because you have fewer responsibilities, but because you're not imprisoned by things you cannot control. You'll start to feel more like yourself, your authentic, unlimited, endlessly creative self, because you're no longer weighed down by who you thought you had to be. Before we part ways, I want to leave you with this truth, asterisk. You came into this world with nothing but potential. You will leave with nothing but the love you've shared and the lives you've touched. Everything else, the possessions, the titles, the achievements, even the failures, are temporary. They are part of your story, but they are not your identity. Your identity is your capacity to grow, to love, to create, to contribute. Your identity is your ability to become new versions of yourself while maintaining your core essence. Your identity is your power to choose in every moment who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world. This power is not diminished by letting go. It's amplified. This capacity is not threatened by change. It's liberated by it. So let go of what no longer serves you. Trust the process of becoming. Embrace the uncertainty of growth. Dance with change instead of resisting it. And remember that every ending is also a beginning. Every loss is also an opportunity. Every moment of letting go is also a moment of opening up to new possibilities. Your future self is waiting for you to release who you used to be so you can become who you're meant to be. Your highest potential is calling you to let go of the limiting beliefs, the outdated fears, the unnecessary burdens that keep you playing small. The art of letting go isn't about losing yourself. It's about finding yourself. It's about discovering who you are when you're not carrying who you think you should be. And that person, that authentic, unlimited, endlessly growing version of you is magnificent. That person is worth fighting for. That person is worth letting go for. The world needs that person. We need your authentic contribution, your unique perspective, your specific gifts, but we can't receive what you have to offer if you're too burdened by what you're carrying to give it. So let go, trust the process, embrace the change, step into your future with confidence and curiosity. Your journey of letting go starts now. Your journey of becoming continues forever. And both of these journeys are beautiful, meaningful, and absolutely necessary for you to live the life you're truly meant to live. If this message resonated with you, if something in these words touched your heart or challenged your thinking, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, join our community of people who are committed to growth, who are practicing the art of letting go, who are supporting each other in becoming the best versions of ourselves. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below with one thing you're ready to let go of. Let's create a space where we can support each other in this beautiful, sometimes challenging, always worthwhile process of growth and transformation. Remember, you are not your past. You are not your limitations. You are not your fears. You are infinite potential in human form. And the world is waiting to see what you'll create when you finally let go of everything that's holding you back. The art of letting go is the art of living fully. And you, beautiful soul, deserve to live the fullest life possible. Let go, grow, become. The world is waiting